basically you are focused on, you are specialist about IP, right? So yeah, and you say your client is also very, very international. So I also want to dig more about your business. So your clients have many copycat in Singapore, so they need you. What type of help you do for clients?
Sure. So I mean, Gateway, although we are famous for intellectual property, we are not only an IP firm. I think we are more or less a full service firm. So a lot of it relates to corporate work.
Okay.
Even incorporating the company here in Singapore, that's something that Gateway helps them with. So from the early stages, they want to incorporate a company here, they want to appoint shareholders, directors, all the way when they start doing business and they need licensing agreements or sale and purchase agreements.
Yeah.
So I would say it's we follow the clients from when they are baby,
from the baby, to the grade,
all the way they grow up, they become teenagers, they start doing business, and then they become more successful, and then they are fully grown adults, and then we are still helping them along the way. I think that's very fantastic. That's a very meaningful journey for us. But a lot of the work also involves IP registration.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, Singapore, we are like a gateway, and if they file a trademark registration, for example, they can always designate the other ASEAN countries.
Malaysia or Vietnam or...
Yeah, exactly, as national filings. So again, Singapore is quite a popular hub for big international companies to come here and open regional offices.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
Headquarters in Asia.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that's coming more and more common these days. It's a common practice. A lot of big Japanese companies as well use Singapore as well.
Could you give us an example, if possible, like a Japanese company's name? Is that possible?
Sure. So for myself specifically, so my journey in my career as a lawyer, as you know, I went in-house for a while.
Yeah.
And one of the big Japanese companies that I worked for was called Lixil.
Lixil, yeah.
Yeah, I think they are big in Japan.
Yeah, very, very famous, yeah.
I went to Tokyo for a business trip, and right in Ginza, there's a huge billboard, Lixil.
Lixil, yeah.
So that's one example that I know personally from experience.
Yeah.
But of course, Sony, Toshiba, Panasonic, Canon, they all have offices, regional offices here in Singapore as well.
So they are also your client, or they just come to Singapore without gateway? Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, some of them are our clients.
Okay.
Yeah, to answer your question generally, I think it's just because Singapore is a good platform for them to manage their business around the region in ASEAN or Asia Pacific.
So sounds also very different from a Japanese situations, because basically Japanese lawyer focus on a Japanese legal system, and in Japan what happened, everything is in Japan basically. But your case, international client come from across the world to Singapore, then they have a headquarters physically in Singapore, but they also want to expand their business to the Asian country, not only in Singapore. So you also supporting your international client in Malaysia or in Vietnam, I mean in ASEAN countries, or just only in Singapore?
I mean, if we don't have firms or agents or partners specifically there, then of course we work with other law firms as well. Yeah, but that's a very good point. I feel that the opportunity for us as Singaporeans, maybe for the international clients, we are able to communicate well with them. So maybe I would ask you back this question: do you think that for the Japanese market, the reason why you only deal with Japanese clients is because it's specific to your language?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So maybe what I can say is that Singaporeans, we speak English, we can relate. We have quite a good understanding of Western culture. We grew up with a very Westernized point of view, global view, right? So maybe it's easier for us to work with our Western counterparts, work with international clients trying to come into Singapore. But then for them, maybe the barrier is that when they try to work with more specific ASEAN countries, then again, there's also that legal, that language, and that cultural barrier for them.
Yeah.
So Singaporeans, because we grew up as a hub, like we are talking about, I had so many international students and friends, even growing up at a very young age. Maybe that's what gives us the advantage to then be like the middleman between the other international businesses and also the domestic markets that we are trying to go into.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, even for me, maybe I try to learn a little bit of Thai. I try to learn a little bit of Malay, Bahasa.
Yeah.
It again makes it easier for me to relate to those people and to help my clients in those countries as well.
So of course, you are not local Vietnamese or you are not local Thai, but at least you can understand their culture. So you can become middleman of like other regions and Asian regions. So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, in some case maybe you have your client in Vietnam or in Malaysia or in Thai. Maybe your firm has a branch in other region, right? I guess
Yeah,
in Asia.
absolutely. So we have our own office in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur.
Okay.
And then
It's very close.
the rest of ASEAN, we have close counterparts there. We have people there that we work very well with as well.
Interesting. So yeah, I also want to know about Singapore, the country itself as well, because you say many international companies come to Singapore, not Kuala Lumpur. Kuala Lumpur is also, I think, international big city, but why they choose not Kuala Lumpur? They choose Singapore.
Again, it could be the language issue, because in Malaysia they speak Bahasa, right? So that could be one factor. I'm just speaking from my own.
Own aspect.
I think Singapore is a very convenient location. We have world-class airports. We have world-class, transportation system. The infrastructure here is very good. We have, amazing skyscrapers. We have
true.
Very fast Wi-Fi. So I think all that makes it a good location, a convenient place. And then of course, Changi Airport. We are also a hub, right, for travel. So whether it's logistical, whether it's economic reasons, whether it's political reasons, or just we are very centralized and we are very easy to access and easy to exit. So that makes it a good location.
Okay. But I want to also know about historical Singaporean situation. I mean, because in modern situation, what you say is true, like a good Wi-Fi, good buildings, good infrastructure. But maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 5 decades ago, you guys didn't have that type of infrastructure. But still, Singapore is famous as an international city. So why it is so international? Singapore is since a long time ago.
So you will realize that you use the word historic, right?
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, because even before the advent of technology and internet and all that, Singapore was already a trading hub.
Oh yeah.
We used to be a former British colony, and specifically we were used as a trading post.
Yeah.
Between the Western world and the Asian, Eastern world as well, right? And that was because Singapore was a port city. We had a very deep harbor, the depth of the floor of the sea was very deep. So big
ship,
big cargo ships could come, offload their cargo, trade, we had a very strong merchant system here in Singapore as well. So even from a very, very early time, we were already very internationalized. We were already a logistical hub for traders, for merchants, for cargo ships to come. So I think it's just a continuation of that. Now in a modern society, we still have a very strong and big port culture here, but more and more, we are trying to become like a financial hub, a logistical hub, a tertiary services hub. So we are just continuing that in the modern society.
Okay. So since simply say Singapore is a very good port for trading, so it's become international from the beginning. then even
Yes.
modern situation, yeah, it's become more international, yeah, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, because of this is international port, Singapore is international port. So many also people across the world come to Singapore and then live in Singapore and become Singapore citizens.
Yes.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
majority come from China, or they come from China or come from other region?
So use me as a example again. So we are second, third generation Singaporeans. Perhaps like you asked me earlier, our ancestors came from China.
Yeah.
So the majority race in Singapore is Chinese. Originated from China.
From China,
like you mentioned. And then the next second biggest population, I believe, is Malay.
Malay, okay.
And I would say also that because indigenously Singapore used to be part of Malaysia as well, right? So that is another reason why Malay and Muslim society is the second biggest population here. Third would be Indian, and then the fourth category would be other races, like what you mentioned. So could be migrants from other countries, could be US, could be UK, could be Europe. So there are the four main classification. Four main classification of ethnicity here in Singapore.
Okay. So you mean Chinese, Malaysian, Indian, and also the others?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh. Then common language is English.
English at the moment, yes, English. Official language of Singapore is still Malay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it.
I mean, because have you ever heard of Singapore's national anthem?
Sorry, I didn't know it.
Because Singapore, after we left the British system, we joined Malaysia for a short time. And then after that, we became an independent country. But we still retain some of the historical, so Malay as our national language is still one of those historical legacy that we carried over.
Okay, so but if you are like a president, try to speak something to your a Singaporean citizen, he's speaking English, right? Just
yes.
example,
So I give you another very recent example.
Okay.
In Singapore, we just celebrated our National Day in
Yeah.
August. So our Prime Minister, every year he gives a speech, right?
Yeah.
And he delivers the speech in Chinese, in Malay as well. And if he can speak Tamil, he will deliver it in Tamil as well.
Wow.
So all the languages of the people here that we speak,
Wow, interesting. You say just example, Malay is one of the also a national language, but you are also Singaporean citizen, of course, but you can't speak Malay well, right? So it means a Singaporean citizen can't speak some of a national language.
Yeah. So I give you an example again, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you watched the movie Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
Did you watch the movie?
No, I didn't watch it yet.
But I'm sure you've heard of the movie, right?
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a scene in the movie where the main character, he brings his friends to a very famous Newton hawker center here in Singapore.
Yeah.
And then he goes to all the different stalls. He orders them like Chinese food, Malay food, Indian food, and every stall that he goes to, he orders in that language. He's able to talk to the hawkers, the stall owners, and he's able to order. So that's generally the typical Singaporean kind of example of how we can speak multiple languages. I think that's a very good example.
Yeah.
Because all Singaporeans love food. So
so for ordering a local food, we need to speak local language as well, even in Singapore. It's interesting. It's interesting. Oh. But at least, you guys can speak English quite well, so internationally it's very useful for you as well. Yeah, it's interesting.